Greetings, fellow makers. Welcome down to the shop on this live stream. I'm Brittany Duran, and today I am going to be painting up some masks. I have this awesome Dishonored Overseer mask that was made by Modulus props. It is a really cool mask, and there's a surprise about the finish on this that I'll talk about later. Also, while I was at Construct in New York City, I met this awesome sculptor who does these really cool masks. His page is SH Sculpture and Design. His name is Shinya Hamano. I am so impressed with his sculpting skills. I just had to buy one of his kits of a mask, so I'll be painting this guy up as well. This is kind of in the design of a masquerade mask, so it just is the top half of the face, which I do appreciate because it is really comfortable already to wear. And then there's this beast. The vision in this is actually pretty good. I am super excited about finishing both of these. I did do a little bit of work ahead of time on these two masks, so let me get you caught up on what I have done. The eyes and the mouth did need to be removed. I used a sanding drum on my rotary tool to start to clean up the edges a little bit. There was some flashing and a little bit of sharp edges. It was super easy to Dremel that down. The process I use for removing material from eyes and mouths and masks is I start from the back with a rotary tool and slowly sand away all the layers until I break through. And then I flip it over and kind of look through the eye and slowly remove material until I get to about where I think kind of matches up on either side. And something special about this mask is Modulus Props cold cast this in brass. So there is metallic powder on the first layer of resin in here. So the painting process for this one might be pretty quick, because once I buff this up, it's going to look shiny and metallic. Also, I'll link Modulus Props' page down below. He did a build write-up on how he made the master for this mask. It is a really incredible build. He used some peppercorn, some sculpting, and then molded and cast it. It's really cool. I'm so impressed at how he got all the details so clean on this piece. Next we have Shinya Hamano's mask, and this started its life as a gray resin cast. The eyes were already cut out and the flashing was already sanded away, so this was pretty easy. It looked like it might have had some mold release in the mold. It was a little bit shiny. You don't want to leave mold release on your cast when you start painting it, so I used some isopropyl alcohol on the mask, just lightly rubbed it down with a paper towel just to remove any kind of oils that might have been on there. The detail on this mask is incredible. It was sculpted with Chavant clay, I believe, and there's so many little hairs and details on here. One of the issues when you have a lot of tons of fine details, when you brush on your silicone, it's really hard to not accidentally trap an air bubble here or there. You can find the air bubbles. They're usually pretty easy to spot in sculpted pieces because the air bubbles will look super shiny and they're like tiny little beads, and you can leave them in there. They're usually just in the crevices. I did find a couple on this mask, and all you have to do is take a needle file and lightly sand over the bubble areas, and they'll just fall right off. They'll break away. To lightly sand the surface to prepare it for priming, I use some of these Scotch-Brite heavy-duty scour pads. These don't have any kind of like soap in them or anything. They're just abrasive pads. So I lightly scuffed over the surface with these guys. I couldn't find our normal primer, so I just went with our Krylon Camo, which bonds well to plastic. I usually use it for Nerf guns, but it worked really well in this case. Definitely check out SH Sculpture and Design's website. He has a lot of really cool sculpts on there. Original designs, and he does some work for the special effects industry, so he has a lot of really fun, interesting projects. I broke out our giant jug of black flow acrylic, added a little bit of water to it, and I'm just going to brush that into all the details of this mask. You see, like, there's the nose holes I didn't get the primer into, and then there's all these little deep crevices. I'm just going to go over the whole thing, making sure I get it into all the little spots. Got a nice base of acrylic on this mask and all the little details. I'm going to let this dry and work on the Overseer mask. For the Dishonored Overseer mask by Modulus Props, I'm going to use his method. It's a method I haven't gotten to try that he was showing off on his Facebook page, so if you want to follow Nick's progress work, go follow him there. He used some Tamiya acrylic paints and lightly dabbed on paint over the whole surface in a real textured blotchy method, making sure to get it into all the crevices. And then he buffed it with steel wool, and this brought out all the brass powder and all the highlights. So that way you don't have to go back in and do a wash after you buff it to bring out all of the metal shine. I usually buff a cold cast mask first and then add paint later. This kind of makes way more sense. I don't know why I didn't think of it before. I've got a Tamiya black and a Tamiya brown. The Tamiya paints definitely have some kind of medium in them that makes them dry really quickly. It almost feels like a lacquer. So maybe it's kind of like an acrylic lacquer mix. I don't know. Definitely, like, if I airbrush this, I'd wear a respirator because it definitely has a smell to it. Just going to put a bunch of that on a paper towel, I guess, and put it all over the mask. And this is gonna look scary at first because you're gonna be like, oh no, put stuff all over all the details and now it doesn't look as good. But don't worry, everything that's a highlight will get removed later. This is a good trust exercise. Especially this symbol, I want to make sure all the details are covered. Then I can kind of blot it away. The trick with the Tamiya paints is that since they dry fast, you don't have a very long working time. So if you pick up those paints and you want to like brush on an even color over a very large surface, it's a difficult challenge since it dries as you're brushing, and you'll usually end up with little streaks of brush marks in your finish. The paints are great for small applications. I mean, they're kind of designed to be model maker paints. I've got the mixture of brown and black applied. I do want to kind of make the crevices even darker. I have some of the straight black and I'm just gonna brush that in, remove a bunch of it. I'm trying to be really uneven with my application. In the game Dishonored, there's a lot of grime and dirt. They don't really take care of their city, so I kind of want to match that. Alright, I have sufficiently covered this with paint, and it's already pretty dry since these Tamiya paints dry so quickly. This looks super extreme, but a lot of this is going to get buffed away once I let it dry for a bit. The acrylic isn't quite dry in these crevices, so I'm going to go grab my hair dryer and speed up the process a little bit. Make sure you use a hair dryer and not a heat gun. You don't want too much heat, just enough to pass warm air over the prop. I printed out a reference. I think I might dry brush this whole mask white, except the nose, and then try and add in the tiger stripes. And I think I'm going to do the stripes a different color besides black, maybe a blue or a purple or a combination of both, just to make it look a little more fancy and like Masquerade style. I can always repaint it if this doesn't work out. Barely keep any of the white paint on my brush, remove the rest of it on the paper towel, and go against the grain of the fur. And it doesn't have to be perfect in one pass. I can always go back in, maybe with like a white cream color or something to give it a little bit of a variation in the fur color. I think this is gonna look awesome. Gotta say, putting a lot of detail into a master sculpt makes the castings that come out of it look incredible, and they're insanely easy to finish. That already looks amazing. Here we have the side I haven't dry brushed yet, and this is the side I did. It already looks incredible. And again, I'm just wiping most of the paint off the brush and going against the grain of the fur. I did 2 layers of dry brushing on the white onto the mask. I think I'm going to try and add a little bit of brownish white. There won't be any stripes on the nose, so I'll try dry brushing on a little bit more there. That's looking pretty good. And I won't do it over the whole thing because I want to kind of have a little bit of a gradient. Now I'm going to go let this dry for a bit and switch over to my other mask. Now that the paint has had a chance to dry, I'm going to be taking some fine steel wool and lightly buffing over all the highlights and some of the areas where I want to remove all this extra paint. And I don't want it to look like a brushed metal, I don't think, so I'm just going to be doing little circular patterns. Oh man, that's already looking cool. Yeah, I think most of this paint's going to get buffed away, and I'm okay with that. Now we have before with all the paint I had added without it being buffed with steel wool. And after. I love the way the metallic brass highlights all of these hard edges. This is a great example of a cold cast getting showcased in such an awesome way. I really love the way this is looking. Once I finish the other side, I'll get a better feel for the overall dirtiness and make a decision then. Okay. Time for some stripes. I got a tiger reference. I'm gonna start with the little stripy bits that are in the whisker indent areas. And those little spots are already in the sculpt, so this is gonna be super easy. It's gonna be like tracing. I'm loosely following my tiger stripe reference as to where some of these stripes are gonna go. I'm keeping it pretty simple. And when I add more pink to the nose, because right now it kind of dried a little bit more gray, I think I'm gonna add some of that pink to the inside of the ear as well. I think I've got just about all the areas I want to be blue figured out. Now I can go back in and make them a little bit more extreme. I have my Createx Airbrush Colors in pearlized, shiny colors. Got a blue, and this stuff goes on really light since it's all watered down for an airbrush. So if I brush this on, I don't think it's gonna look too crazy. I think it's just gonna enhance the blue stripe areas. See how this looks. And since it's pearlized, it'll have a little bit of a shimmer to it, which I think will look nice. Oh yeah, I really like that blue. I think that's gonna be perfect. And here we have it, my 2 painted masks from the live stream. These turned out way better than I thought they would. It really helps to start with a kit that already has incredibly clean detail and lots of little crevices. And I basically just had to throw paint on it until I brought out some more details. I'll link our tutorial video for cold casting down in the description, and definitely go check out Modulus Props' build of the Dishonored mask. Also make sure to check out SH Sculpture and Design's awesome sculpting work. This was a really cool kit, and I believe he sells them on his website if you want to pick one up. It was fun to kind of try and add some stripes to this. I think it turned out pretty well. I really like the color choice. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next video.